Hi everyone and welcome to creating a Reddit clone using Ruby on Rails. At the end of this course, you're going to have the knowledge on how to create an application like Reddit using Rails. And so here's the actual application that we're going to be making. So as you can see, I'm on this page and I can search for subreddit. So I'm going to search for r/funny. I'll go and click this link and it'll take me to that subreddit. Then I can click join and it's going to ask me to log in. I'll do that now. I'll log in and I signed in successfully. And it takes me back to the home page, but I'll just go back to the funny Reddit. And so I'm a member now because I just joined. And as you can see, it has 2 posts, the meme of the year and the worst meme ever. And so if I go and click on the meme of the year, I can see that it has -1 score or votes. So if I upvote it, it will turn into 1. And that's because I got rid of the downvote and I upvoted it at the same time. So it's +2. Every post also has comments. So I can add a comment and it's going to update in real time. So these 2 guys already have comments. So I can say, oh my God, create comment and it updates in real time. So that's pretty cool. And then if I click on subreddits, it's going to take me to the subreddits that I'm a member of or that I'm in. And these are the ones that I'm a member of. So if I click on funny, I leave and then I go back to subreddits. I am not in that subreddit anymore, so it doesn't show. And then obviously I can sign out. And I can create posts and create subreddits. And so this is the application that we're going to create. I'm going to explain everything in detail. And so yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is install Rails. You need to have it on a Linux subsystem for Windows. That way you'll have Redis easily working and it'll just be way better because the commands will be the same. I also recommend using VS Code. It's not obligatory, but I recommend that you use it. And you can use whatever browser that you want, it doesn't matter. So here's how to install Rails. Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Malachi and in this video we're going to install Ruby on Rails on Windows. We are going to be using a Linux subsystem for this. I believe it's the best and the fastest way to run Ruby on Rails on Windows. So let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is click the Windows button and then we're going to go into search and we're going to search turn Windows features on or off. So turn Windows features on or off. We're going to click on this. And then there are 3 folders that we're going to have to enable. The first one is Windows Subsystem for Linux. This is going to install some packages that makes it easier to have a subsystem for Linux on Windows. Then we're going to need the Windows Hypervisor platform and the virtual machine platform. Then click OK. And then you're going to have to restart your computer to install the required files. So I'm going to restart my computer and then I'll see you after it's restarted. Okay, so I've just restarted my computer and now the next step that we're going to follow is we're going to search again and we're going to go to the Microsoft Store. So search up Microsoft Store and we're going to go to Microsoft Store. And then once you're inside of here, although it takes forever to load because it's not a very good store, I'll tell you that. We're going to search up Ubuntu. Whoops. We're going to search up Ubuntu and we want to get the LTS version. We don't want to get the normal version, we want to get the LTS version. So right now it's version 22.04.3 and I have it already. So I'm going to click open, but for you need to click install. Then once that is completely installed, what you need to do is next go to the Windows terminal. This is just a Windows terminal. It's really much better than command prompt, has lots of features. I'll show you it now. So we're going to go here to Windows terminal. I'm going to click open. Obviously you're going to have to install it. And this is what the Windows terminal looks like. You can open up your command prompt PowerShell Ubuntu. It has settings to change the colors and things like that. And so yeah, the Windows terminal is pretty good. And then we're going to open up the Windows terminal and we're going to go into command prompt and we're going to run this command wsl.exe update. Hit enter. And then this is going to install the Windows subsystem for Linux. This is because I was getting this error. WSL2 requires an update to its kernel component. If you didn't get this error, then you do not have to run this command. But it's just in my case, I was getting this error. So we're going to wait for this command to finish and then I'll see you when it's done. As you can see now it says Windows subsystem for Linux has been installed. So what I'm going to do is open my Ubuntu. I'm going to see what this says. And as you can see now I'm in an instance of Ubuntu. And so the next thing that we're going to do is install Ruby on Rails on Ubuntu. So I'm going to go and search up the DigitalOcean guide, and I'll have a link to this guide in the description. And essentially what we're going to do is follow every command. So I'm going to copy this command, sudo apt update, and it's giving me the password. So I'm going to have to enter my password. So that command has ran. And now next we have to install the dependencies required to install Ruby. So I'm going to hit copy, paste, and enter. Then yes. Then we're going to run the next command. All done. Then the next one. And essentially we just want to run every single command here. Here's another one. And as you can see, I ran this type rbnv command, and we're getting the correct output, so that's correctly installed. And then we're going to install Ruby with Ruby build. So let's do that. Run this command, and that just lists all the available versions of Ruby. So in this guide, they're saying we should install Ruby 2.7.6, but I want to install the newest version of Ruby, so we're going to install Ruby install rbenv install Ruby 3.3.0. But you install whichever version of Ruby you want. I recommend the newest one. And now it's installing this version of Ruby. Installing Ruby can be a lengthy process, so be prepared for the installation to take some time to complete. Okay, now that Ruby is installed, Ruby 3.3, we're going to install Rails. So let's run gem install Rails. And so now it just installed Rails for me. And just to check that they're both successfully installed, you need to make sure to run ruby-v, which gives us our Ruby version, and rails-v. This is a different Ruby version to the one I just installed. This is the one I previously had installed, but as long as it displays some sort of version that's relatively new, you're going to be okay. I'm not sure why it didn't update this current version of Ruby to the new one, but I'll figure that out a different day. As long as you have Ruby installed and Rails installed, it's all good. And so the next thing that we're going to do is install Git. So I'm going to search up Git for Windows, download this one, download, and it's downloading Git for Windows. If you don't know what Git is a version control software that allows us to push our code up to and back it up to sources like GitHub. So I'm going to double click on this file, and then we're going to install Git. Okay, and now we have Git installed, so that's good. And the next thing that we're going to install is node.js. So we're going to install node.js. So it's the same process. We're going to say node.js download, but in this case we're going to install it on Ubuntu. So we're going to use the command sudo apt install node.js. Enter the password. Yes. And then it's installing node.js. Okay. So now it's successfully installed node.js. And so now we have Git, Ruby, Rails, and node.js. So we should technically be able to start a Rails application and things should work. But there's a couple more things that we need. So what we need, obviously, a code editor like VS Code, PostgreSQL, and then we should be good to go. So I'm going to download VS Code. So let's go and install VS Code. So I'm just going to search up VS Code for Windows. I'm sure you know how to do this, but just making this as comprehensive as it can be. And then we're just going to install VS Code. So double click it and install it. And then while that's installing, I'm going to go online in the browser and I'm going to search up PostgreSQL install for Ubuntu. And then I'm going to copy this command, go here, hit enter, and then hit yes. So now we should be installing PostgreSQL. I do like to install it on Windows as it gives me a package called pgadmin4, which is basically a GUI that allows me to use PostgreSQL but with a program or a window. So it makes it way easier to use PostgreSQL instead of typing commands for everything. But now that we have PostgreSQL installed, I'm going to hit clear. And we're going to create a new directory. So I'm going to go make directory, Rails projects, enter. Then we're going to go cd Rails projects. And then we're going to run a Rails command. We're going to create a project. We're going to say Rails new first Linux test, enter. And we should be creating the Rails project. And here we go. As you can see, Rails is successfully working. But let's just wait until we actually run the Rails server and see if it works. And so that command is successfully run. And now I'm going to run code dot, and it did not work. Right, so after restarting my computer, I was actually able to run the command code dot. So now I'll just cd into that directory. So I'll go cd and then I'll go cd rails projects and then I'll go cd fist linux test because I spelt it wrong. And then we can do rails s. Or first we can do code dot and then we can do rails s. And as you can see, I'll just control left click on this link and it takes us to the Rails page, everything working, Rails version, Ruby version. This means that Ruby on Rails has been successfully installed. While we haven't set up Postgres with this particular project, I'll show you how to do that in a future video. If you liked this video or found it helpful, please subscribe, like the video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so now that we've got Ruby on Rails installed, we're actually going to begin creating this beautiful application. So to do that, I'm going to go to Windows Terminal, stop the server that I'm currently in, clear, and then I'm going to go to the project directory that I want to create the file. So to do that, I'm going to change directory to that project. So I'm going to go cd ... and that's going to take me to out of that directory. And then I'm going to do Rails new Reddit YouTube. And this is going to create a new Ruby on Rails application if you have everything installed. So the next thing that we're going to do is cd into that directory. So go cd Reddit YouTube. Then what we're going to do is we're going to open it up in Visual Studio Code. So do code dot. And as you can see, now we have it open in Visual Studio Code. So we have our app in Visual Studio Code. And the first thing that we're going to do is create a scaffold. And a scaffold is a collection of files that's going to tell the application what to do. So imagine on a blog application, you have blogs, and each blog, you can create a blog, you can delete the blog, you can read the blog, or you can update the blog. And so the first command that we're going to run is going to be Rails G scaffold subreddit, and we're going to say title, text, and then body, text, and then we're going to say user_ID integer. So hit enter on that command, and that's going to create the Rails G scaffold. Then what we're going to do is say Rails DB migrate. Okay, so we've got our scaffold, so I'm going to run Rails S, and then we're going to go to our application. We're going to go to config roots.rb, and we're going to uncomment this line, but instead of saying root post hashtag index, we're going to say root subreddits hashtag index. And then we're going to go back to the application, go to the home page, and as you can see, we're getting this. So that's pretty cool, but I don't really like how it looks. So we're going to add a simple CSS library that's going to automatically bump up the styling and make it look better. So to do that, go to the new tab and say simple CSS 2. And then we're going to click on the first link introducing simple CSS. And then we're going to copy this link. So copy that link, then go back to VS Code, go to app, views, layouts, application.html.arb. And inside of the head tag, so this one and this one, we're going to add this link. And if we save and refresh, this should automatically be looking better. And as you can see, it's looking a little bit better and it's resembling the application that we had before. So subreddits, new subreddit, and as you can see, we have all of this. So we can create a new subreddit. So I'm going to say funny. And as you can see, this is the funny subreddit. And then as the user, we're not going to enter that for now, create the subreddit. And this is what a scaffold does. It's pretty cool, and I find it to be quite powerful. Okay, so now that we've got our first scaffold, we're going to add our first gem. And this gem is going to be called friendly ID. And what it's going to do is that if we click show this subreddit, as you can see at the top of the URL, it says /subreddit/1. Well, we're going to change it with this gem, which is a package, which is a library. We're going to change this to the title of the subreddit. So let's go ahead and do that. So to do this, go to rubygems.org. Then we're going to search in friendly_ID and go to this one, 40 million downloads, and then homepage. Then what we're going to do is follow the instructions. So it says, add this line to your application's gem file. We can do that pretty easily. Copy the line, go to the application's gem file, and then paste it in. So gem file, here it is, paste it in. And that's okay. So it's there now. Then what's the next step? Then it says, and then execute. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do, and you don't have to actually stop the server, you can just open up another tab. So on Windows Terminal, do this Ubuntu, and as you can see, I'm here. I'll close that one. And so we're going to go cd Rails projects, and then cd Rails YouTube. Then what we're going to do, Reddit YouTube. That's what I called it, Reddit YouTube. And then what we're going to do is run a bundle install, because I don't want to stop the server, because there's no need to stop the server because it sometimes takes a long time to start. Alright, and then it says Rails G migration, add slug to users, slug unique. So it says add a slug column to the desired table, e.g. users. Now what is our desired table? What table do we want to add slug to? Well, that's a great question. Now if we go to DB schema, we can see that the only table that we actually have right now is called subreddits. So obviously it's going to be subreddits. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go and copy this command, but we're not going to run it yet. Copy it, and then Rails G migration add slug to users. Use the arrow keys to move it. And then we're going to say add slug to subreddits. That's better. Hit the command and we should be in business. As you can see, we're getting this. Then what we have to do is say generate the friendly configuration file on a new migration. So let's go ahead and copy the command blindly. It should work. It's going to create an initializer file, which is basically just going to give it so that it has access to variables and scopes. Okay, then we're going to run the migration scripts. So to do that, run Rails db migrate. And before I run this command, I'm just going to show you what this actually does. So go back to the application, and if we go to db migrate, this is that folder. As you can see, migrate. This is the folder. The first migration we created was this one, Rails create table subreddits, and I created a table with two columns, title and body. We call these columns attributes. So we have an attribute called title and an attribute called body, and they are of type text. Then we also have an attribute called user ID, and it's of type integer. Then our next migration, we're just about to add the slug to the subreddits table. And in the next migration, we are creating friendly ID slugs. So this is another thing that we need for that gem. So what this is going to do is add this inside of this. So this is going to go inside of here. And so just to demonstrate that, I'm going to run this command and you'll see. So on schema.rb, schema.rb is the file name. And as you can see, it just got automatically added. So that's the cool thing about Rails. Very cool. So now we've got access to that in the database. And then it says, edit the app models user.rb file as the following. Now, if you remember, it said to the desired table, users, and so it's using users, but we're actually going to use subreddits. So we need to say, edit the app models subreddit.rb as file as the following. So let's copy this command, copy this code, go to models subreddit.rb and copy it inside there. So it's pretty simple. All we're saying is extend friendly ID. So that means we're able to use friendly ID. And then we're saying friendly ID name, use slugged. Now, here's something really important. It's trying to use name of the subreddit. But if we go to dbschema.rb, so where is dbschema.rb? dbschema.rb, as you can see, the name of the subreddit, that is not an attribute. It doesn't say name anywhere here. So we have to change it to something else. So we're going to change it to title because name and title are practically the same thing. And so we can't use name because we don't have access to that variable because it's literally not a variable. It's never existed on the subreddit table. So now that we've got that, let's go back to the documentation and it says edit app controllers user controller file and replace user.find by user.friendly.find. Okay, we can go ahead and do that. So remember, it says users, but we're doing it with subreddits. So you have to adapt. So we're going to go to controllers, subreddits controller instead of users controller because we don't have users controller and we're doing it with subreddits. And it's saying go to the show action. So actually, no, don't go to the show action. We need to go to here, def set subreddit. And it says at subreddit is equal to subreddit.find params ID. So this is going to find the subreddit by the ID. It's going to find it by the ID that's passed through the views. But we have to change it to friendly.find. And the reason for this is because .friendly.find uses a string, but .find only looks for an integer, so it's going to give us an error if we were passing a string through the views, through the links. So if we've done all that, that is the end of the documentation. It says now when you create a new user like the following, you can then access the show user page using the URL and it will have the same name as the user. So let's try that for ourselves. I'm going to delete this subreddit. It's giving me an error. Our first error, wonderful. Uninitialized constant subreddit friendly ID. The reason that we're actually getting this error is because if you remember, we ran Rails G friendly ID. And what we need to do is restart the server, because when you run a generation file, you'll have to restart the server. We're not talking about Rails G Scaffold because that's in-house, but if we're doing it with some other gem. So if we refresh, this error should go away. And if I destroy this now, as you can see, it says subreddit was successfully destroyed. So now we're going to test if what we did actually just worked. So let's go and see. So new subreddit. Hello, I am the best subreddit. And then we're going to say create subreddit. And as you can see in the URL, it says, hello, I am the best subreddit. We did this using the gem called friendly ID, which is very famous, has 40 million downloads. And so that's the end of this video. So on to the next one. Okay, so we've just added friendly ID, and the next thing that we're going to do is style this up so it looks a bit better. So I'm going to go back to VS Code. I'll just close these tabs for now. I'm going to go back to VS Code, and we're going to go to, hold on. Okay, so we're going to go to app views layout or subreddits and underscore subreddit the HTML.erb. And then in this file, what we're going to do is get rid of this p tag, get rid of this body tag, get rid of this title tag, and then make this r/, make this h3, make this one h3, and then we're also going to go up here and we're going to say link to, and we're going to say subreddit do, and then we'll go here and here. So what this code does is it's going to create a link, and the link is going to enclose all of this. So however big this is, that'll be the link. And so if we click the link, it will take us to the subreddit. So let's go and refresh the page, and we should be getting this. All right, so that's cool. So we're getting a link, and we can just click it and it takes us to it. And now that we have the link, we don't actually need this show button. So I'm going to go to index the HTML.erb, and we can get rid of this one. So that's looking a bit better, but the actual thing that we're going to do in this video is we're going to add Devise. Devise is an authentication solution that's going to make it easy to add sign up and login functionality, and all the other things like sign out, email confirmation, whatever you want. Anything to do with user authentication, Devise has it covered. So let's once again go to Ruby Gems, and we're going to search up Devise with an S. And as you can see, it says flexible authentication solution for Rails with Warden, and it has 188 million downloads. So we're going to click on it, and then we're going to go to the homepage. I go to the homepage because I want to see the documentation, because it's hard to remember every single thing, although I probably could. Alright, and then we're going to scroll down to getting started. And as you can see, we need to first of all add Devise. So Devise 4.0 works with Rails 6 onwards. So we're on Rails 7.1.3.2, so we're grand. And then we're going to copy this command, go to Windows Terminal, and go to the one that has a free slot, clear, and we're going to run the command, bundle add Devise. It's just going to install Devise. Alright, so let me go back down here, and we've done this command. So next we need to run the generator. Let's go ahead and run the generator. So enter. Okay, perfect. And it gave us a long list of things to do. It first said, ensure you have defined default URL options in your environment files. And so basically all we need to do is copy this line of code to the config environments development.rb. And it says, here's an example of default URL options appropriate for a development environment. So let's go ahead and do that. So go to the VS Code and go to config and development.rb. So development.rb, where the hell is this file? In here, and we're going to paste it in. Make sure to paste it inside. Then we're going to go back out. And let's have a look at the instructions. Number 2, ensure you have defined root URL to something in your config/roots.rb. Let's check if we've done that. So let's go to config roots.rb, and as you can see, we have done that, so that's done. Then next thing to do is it says number 3, ensure you have Flash messages installed in your application. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go and copy these. Then I'm going to go to app, views, layouts, application to HTML.erb and add them in. and we're gonna say before the yield tag. The yield tag is where it renders every other page. Then we're gonna say number 4. You can copy Devise views for customization to your app by running Rails Devise views. We're not gonna do that because we don't need to style our Devise views. But if you wanted to style your Devise views, you'd have to do that. Alright, so then that's done. And the next thing that we're going to do is what we're going to do. Oh yeah, we need to Rails generate Devise model. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say, I'll zoom in so you can see it clear. Rails Devise user. Enter. So it's going to create a model, and a model is just kind of like something that you can insert data into. And then we're going to run Rails db migrate, which you know what it is. It kind of adds the files and the tables to the representation of the database, which is the schema.rb. Now that we've done that, we're going to say we don't need to run Rails S because we already have the Rails server running. So what I'm going to do is go back to the application. And if we refresh, nothing's going to change. In fact, something is going to change. We're getting an error. And the same thing happened when we run generator commands. We have to refresh the server. So let's stop the server and then start it again. Alright, so nothing happens. We still have the same application. But what we're going to do is make it so that you can't create a subreddit without being logged in. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go to controllers, subreddits controller, and we're going to say before action, and we're going to say authenticate user, and we're going to say only, and we're kind of saying new. So let's see what happens if we do that. And so all we're doing is we're saying before action authenticate the user on the new action. So it's saying we're never going to be able to create a subreddit unless we are already signed in. So let's go ahead and check that out. So if we click new subreddit, as you can see, it says you need to sign in or sign up before continuing. So that's pretty cool. If I sign up and I say, if I sign up with all of these passwords and my email, and then it says welcome, you've signed up successfully. As you can see, I can create a new subreddit. So that's pretty cool. In the next video, we're going to be adding this subreddit, and we're going to be connecting this subreddit to the user. So we're going to be able to say like my subreddit. And so the subreddit is actually connected to the user. Okay, so in this video, we're going to connect the subreddit and the user. That way our application is going to be more secure. And when I create a subreddit, let's call it funny, and I create the subreddit, nobody else will be able to delete the subreddit, because right now, any other user can just sign up and then delete this, or they can edit it. And I only want myself to be able to do that because I am the owner of this current subreddit. So that's the functionality that we're going to be adding in this video. And so to get started, what we're going to do is I'm going to go to VS Code and I'm going to show you what we did. So we went to db schema, and this is something we added before. If you remember, we added t.integer user.id, user_id. The reason that we did that is because we're going to use this column in our subreddits table to connect to the user ID. So we're going to make this column the current user.id, and that way they will be connected. And then what we can do is we can say only show the delete button and the edit button if it's the current user, if the current user.id is equal to the subreddit user ID. So that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing that we're going to do is go to app, views, subreddits, and form. And we're going to go here and we're going to say comma, value, and we're going to say current_user.id. But there's a problem here. And the problem is that if we try and access this form while we're not signed in, we're going to get an error. And the reason that we're going to get an error is because current user.id is not going to be available as a variable because we won't be signed in. So we're not going to be a current user and we're not going to have an ID. So to fix that, what we're going to do is, well, let's go to controllers, subreddits controller, and it should actually be all right because we're already saying before action authenticate user only on new. And we're also going to add edit, create, update, and also destroy. And then we can go back to the form, and I'm going to get rid of this label because we don't need that. And then we're also going to say comma after this user.id, and we're going to say type, and we're going to say hidden because we don't need to hide that. Right now I'm just going to delete that so I can show you that it's actually inputting the current user.id. So look, I can say new subreddit, and as you can see, 1, because that's the current user.id. So we're gonna hide that field now because we don't want to show it to the user, because that's easier for the user to create a subreddit. All right, so now we're passing the current user.id as the user ID. So that's perfect. And if we go to subreddits controller and we go to this bottom, as you can see at the bottom, subreddit params, we're already passing the user ID param, so that's good too. The next thing that we have to do is say, let's go to we can go to show page of subreddits, and we can say if current user. So if current user, and then we're going to say and current user dot id is equal to at subreddit dot id, and then we're going to say end. So if we're logged in and the current user dot id is equal to the at subreddit dot id, so that subreddit, then we can show all of these links. Now I'm going to put this out of here, this back to subreddits, and that's good for now. So now if I create a subreddit, so we're going to call this one Ireland, and we create subreddit, and then if I go back to subreddits, and if I click on the subreddit, it's not actually showing me these links, and that's because we did it wrong, and it's supposed to be at subreddit.user_id, because it's not supposed to be getting the ID of the subreddit, it's supposed to be getting the user ID attribute of the subreddit. So if I refresh, as you can see, now we have access to this destroy, edit, and back. So that's pretty cool. And so technically now, no other user other than my current user that's logged in can destroy or edit, or actually, can destroy or edit this subreddit. But we're going to make it even more secure, and the way that we're going to do that is by adding the same thing but in the controller. So let's add the same thing but in the controller. So I'm just going to copy this link, this line of code, and we're going to go to subreddits controller, and I'm going to say in the destroy, at the top, we're going to say if current user and current user ID is equal to add subreddit.user.id, and then every if statement you have to have at least one end, or for every if statement you have to have one end, and so we have to add another end. And if we do that, then that's going to make that more secure, because what we're doing here in the view was we're just hiding the buttons. But let's say somehow somebody created their own button, then they would be able to do it. But because we have this code in the controller now, even if they create their own button and they try and press it, then it will still not work, because it will still check for this validation. So let's go ahead and do that again. And we're going to do that in the update section as well, because we don't want anyone to be able to go there and update. And so now that we've done that, I'm going to open up my Edge browser, if that's Edge, and I'm going to go to localhost, and I'll try and delete one of these subreddits. So as you can see, it actually, if I click on one, it doesn't show me the delete links. And then if I try and sign in or sign up, we'll say sign up, and I'll sign up with a different email, then I shouldn't be able to delete this subreddit. And that's exactly what we want. Before we could delete it. And as you can see, it's not showing me the delete links. So perfect. But if I sign in as the other guy, which I can't right now because we don't have the links, which we'll be doing in the next video, then I would be able to delete them if I was in the same account. So it's working as expected. Let's go. In the next video, we're going to add a navbar just so we can navigate around much better. Okay, so in this video, we're going to add a navbar to the application, and that's going to help us to sign in, sign out, and all that good stuff. So to get started, what we're going to do is go back to VS Code, and we're going to go to the app, views, layouts folder, and we're going to create a new file, and it's going to be called _navbar.html.erb. Then what we're going to do is going to say, hello, I am the navbar inside of this file. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to application.html.erb, and we're going to, just above these notices, we're going to say render partial, and we're going to say layout/navbar. And if we do that, then it should render the partial navbar on every single page. So as you can see, now we have hello, I am the navbar, and it doesn't matter which page I go to, it's stuck there. And the reason for that is because we stuck it on the application.html.erb page, and anything that I stick on this page literally goes everywhere. So as you can see, I'll type some random shit, and because I stuck it on this page, it's gonna stay there no matter which page I go to. So that's interesting. Now I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, so we have hello, I'm the navbar, but I want an actual navbar. So we're in the navbar file, and on the left I have my complete application, and on the right I'm going to write out this code. And so I'm going to write out the important parts. So this HTML bit I'm going to just copy in. So we're saying style sheet link tag navbar, and all this does is it means that we're going to be using a style sheet called navbar. And this style sheet is in the assets and style sheets folder, and you just create one called navbar.css in there, and then that's connected to this. Then what I'm going to do is that, and we're going to copy this, and here we're saying something important. We're saying link to home, so I'll copy that, and as you can see it needs to go inside of this div, and it's just going to link to home, which is the subreddit's path, the root of the directory, the root of the project. And so that's pretty useful. And then here we're saying something really important that you need to understand. So we're saying if user signed in, it's pretty self-explanatory. If the current user is signed in, then we're going to render everything inside of that if statement. So first, we're going to render a link to sign out because we want them to be able to sign out. And something very important here is that you have the correct path. So we're saying destroy user session path, and also data turbo method delete. If you don't have that, then it's going to post a get request instead of a post request, and that means that you're going to experience an error. And then there's some code in here that you can't copy yet because we don't have the correct functionality. And so right now I'm just going to copy this. So we're going to say else, and then we're going to say div class navbar auth, and then we're going to say link underscore to sign up, and we're going to say new underscore user underscore registration underscore path class nav link. Some valuable information is that every link always ends in underscore path. That's something common. And these roots that I'm using, like new user session and new user registration, if you do the command rails roots, then they come up. And so I'm almost finished copying all this. Make sure to have enough ends for each if statement. Alright, so if I go back to the browser and I refresh, we should be getting somewhat of a navbar. And as you can see, we're actually getting an error. And it says the asset navbar.css is not present. So we have two options. We can either delete that line of code and that will fix it, or we can go to assets, style sheets, and create that file. So we're going to go create new file navbar.css. Then what I'm going to do is just go to the completed directory, assets, style sheets, navbar.css, and I'm just going to copy this in there. And I recommend that you do as well, although it's not necessary. It's just simple CSS. So it's just going to make it look a lot better. Change the colors, change the padding, change the margin, change the background color, change the whatever else. And so if I save that file, it should be gone. And as you can see, now I have some sort of navbar. So I have a home button and I have a sign out button. If I click sign out, then it's going to say signed out successfully. And I actually get that message twice, so we're going to fix that now. But I have the sign up and login link, so that's very important. So it says signed out successfully twice. So what I'm going to do is just go to the application.html.drb, and I'm actually going to get rid of both of these alerts because we don't need them anymore. And so if I log in now, I should still get that message, and as you can see, I do. I'm also just going to delete this subreddit. I don't want that one. So we've got 3 subreddits, and now we've got the ability to make subreddits, and the subreddits are linked to our users. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so in the next video, I'm going to show you how to make posts for each subreddit. So we're going to be able to click on a subreddit and then say new post, and it's going to show the form here. Alright, so in this video, we're going to make it so that when you click on a subreddit, we're going to have an add post button. And then when we click add post, it's going to take us to another page, and it's going to say create a new post for X subreddit. And then we're going to be able to create the post, and then it's going to most importantly show up here. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing I'm going to do is go to Windows Terminal, and I have the server running, and that's fine. And so I'm going to go to the next tab, and I'm going to say Rails G Scaffold, and we're going to say post, and we're going to say title text body text, and then we're also going to say user ID integer, and we're also going to say subreddit ID. So we're going to say subreddit ID integer, and once we've done that, we're going to hit enter. Then we're going to run the friendly ID. So remember, we added friendly ID. Well, now we're going to actually do the same thing, but for the posts. So let's go ahead and do that, because it's going to be easier to do it right now. So all I have to do is say Rails G migration, add slug to posts, and we're going to say slug is unique. And we already have the friendly ID initializer, so that should be okay. And then what we're going to do is say Rails DB migrate. That's going to migrate all of those files. And then we're going to go to and copy this and go to the posts. So that's not the right VS Code. Go to post.rb, so post.rb, and that is inside app/models. And we're going to copy this inside here, extend friendly ID, which means we're able to use friendly ID. And we're going to say friendly ID title, use slugged. And then finally, one more thing we have to do is we have to go to post controller, go down here, and we're going to say .friendly.find. So now that that's done, we can actually begin to work with our posts. So let's go back to the application and see what we have and see what we have to do. All right. So the first thing we have to do is create a button and say add post. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to VS Code, and we're going to go to the subreddits show page. And we want to say here, and we're going to say just before back to subreddits, we're going to say link to, and we're going to call it add post. Actually, we'll say new post, and then we're going to say new _post _path, and then we need to make sure to add in the variable of the subreddit. So we're going to say subreddit ID, and that is equal to the @subreddit.id. And for now, that's okay. So this is really important here. We're saying the subreddit ID of the post, which is a column or an attribute in the post table, is equal to the @subreddit.id. And the @subreddit.id is the subreddit that we're currently on. In this case, it will be hello, I'm the best subreddit. And the ID will be whatever it is, maybe 2, maybe 1, I'm not sure. We can check, but it's no need. And so we're passing in the subreddit ID already. And so let's save and refresh, and let's see what we get. So we say new post, and as you can see, we're taken to the new post page, but there's something really important we have to do. And we need to make it so that in the form, it actually passes that subreddit ID. And we have to do the same thing, that it actually passes the current user.id here. So let's go to the posts form.html.erb, and let's get rid of these form labels. We don't need them. And let's go here and let's say value current _user.id. That way we're passing in the current user.id as the user ID of the post model. Because if we didn't do that, then we wouldn't be able to check against it later. We wouldn't be able to say like if the user has any posts or if the subreddit has any posts. And then we're going to do the same thing here, but instead of value current user.id, we're going to say @subreddit.id. Make sure to have 2 T's. Oh, 2 D's, I mean. 2 D's. And so if we save and refresh, that should be good to go. Oh no, it's subreddit.user_id. And we're getting an error because it's saying no method error in post #new. And so what we have to do is add this variable to post #new. So let's go to post controller and go to new. And then we're going to say @subreddit is equal to subreddit.friendly.find. Then we're going to say params, and then braces, and we're going to say ID. So we need to use friendly ID to find the ID. And if we do that, then we should be able to actually see, and I'm getting this error, couldn't find subreddit without an ID. And that's because we need to actually do subreddit_ID. Because basically what we're doing here is we're just saying @subreddit is equal to subreddit.friendly.find params subreddit ID. Or we're saying basically get this in the URL that it's passing already from the link, and get it and hold it as a variable, and then display it here in the form. So the current user.id is 1, and the subreddit _id is 2. So now that we've got that, we can go to post controller and we can just give this a type of hidden because we don't need to show them anymore. So we can say comma type hidden. So that's done. And then what I'm going to do is create the post. So hello, and then create post. And as you can see, it takes us to this page. But we don't actually want to do that. We want to direct back to that subreddit. Now there's something important that we have to do, and let's go to models and do that. So we have to go to models, app views, or app models, and then go to the post.rb. And we're going to say belongs _to, and then we're going to say subreddit. And then we're going to copy that, and we're going to say belongs _to, and we're going to say user. And then we're going to go to user.rb, and we're going to say has _many posts, and has _many subreddits. This is called references and associations, and it's basically making it so that we can have, like, if the user has subreddits, or if the user .post.present, and variables like that, which we're going to need later. And then we're also going to go to subreddit, and we're going to say has _many subreddits. This is in the models folder. Has many subreddits, and has many, sorry, not has many subreddits, has many posts, and belongs to user. Belongs to user. Okay. So now that we've done that, what I want to do is I want to go and I want to display all the posts that this subreddit has on this page, on the show page. So let's go ahead and do that. And so if we go to VS Code, and let's go to VS Code, and so if we go to VS Code and we go to the controllers, subreddits controller, and in the show page we do at posts is equal to at subreddit dot posts, and we're getting at subreddit from down here. We're saying at subreddit is equal to subreddit.friendly.find params ID. Then what we're going to be able to do is access this at post variable, and we should just be able to go to views subreddits show.html.erb. And where do we want to add it? Well, we want to add it at the bottom. So let's say render at posts. And so now we're actually getting all the posts associated with this subreddit. So perfect. That's brilliant. If we go to a different subreddit, as you can see, it's not going to have the posts because that post is only associated with this subreddit. In the next video, we're going to make this look a lot better, and we're also going to add images to the post. Alright, so hello everyone. In this video, we're going to style the posts on the subreddits, so we're going to make that look better. And then we're also going to add images, so we're going to add images to this post. So to make this look better, let's go to the application on this one. That's not the correct application. I'm going to close that one. I'm going to go to this application, and we're going to go to post_post.html.erb. So let's delete user and subreddit from here. We don't need to display that. We also don't need to display this. And then so what we're going to do is we're going to make this post.title a h2. That's going to make it bigger and nicer. So it's already a better difference. It's already a big difference. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give this a link. So we're going to say link to, and then we're just going to say post and then do. So when we click on the post, it's going to take us to the post. Pretty simple. All right. And then, so that's good. But let's also, let's make that centered. So let's say style, text align center. And then let's also add images. All right. So to add images, we have to do some commands. So go to this Windows terminal, and we're going to say Rails G active_storage : install. I think we have to actually add active storage first. So let's say bundle add active_storage. Yeah, okay, that's not actually a gem. Okay, so it was Rails active storage : install, not actually Rails G active storage. So Rails active storage : install, and then we're going to run Rails db migrate. And then we're also going to have to restart the server because we ran a file that made an initializer. So we're going to say Rails S. And then now we have active storage installed, so that's good. let me just go to our application and make sure we have it in our DB schema. And as you can see, we do. It made loads of tables. It made 3 tables: storage attachments, storage blobs, and storage and variant records. What we have to do now is we have to go to post.rb. We have to say has one, and we're going to say image. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to post controller. So go to app controllers. Where the hell is controllers? Controllers, post controller. And we're going to say at the bottom here, we're going to permit an image. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to views, posts underscore form. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, yeah, so we just have to do form.filed field. And we're going to say image. And then if we refresh the page, let me go to the browser. Nothing happens, but if we click new post, as you can see, we have this option to add an image. So let me add an image. And then add hey, create post. We're getting an error and it says missing model class image for the post #image association. And the reason that we're getting that is because we actually have to say that we want to attach an image to post. So to do that, let's go to our post.rb. And I was actually wrong. It wasn't has one image. It was has one underscore attached image. So similar, but not the same. And as you can see, maybe now we'll actually be able to create a post successfully. Create post. And as you can see, the post was successfully created. Wonderful. Now all we have to do is display the image here, and then we've got images in our application. So let's go ahead and do that. So all we have to do is go to posts underscore post.html.erb, and then we're going to say image underscore tag, and we can just say post.image, and let's see if that works. And as you can see, it does. The image shows, but we need to style it and make sure it actually stays inside. And so to do that, we're going to start our style, and we're going to say style tags, and then we're going to say first, let's just make sure that we're making this validatable. So we're saying if post.image.present, because we only want to render the image if the post actually has an image. Because if we try to render the image when the post doesn't have an image, then we're going to get an error, and that's going to break the application. Or better yet, we'll just add a class to this. So we can say post image. So post image, and then we're going to say max width 100% and height auto. So we're going to saying it can't be bigger than the page, and the height is going to be auto. So if we refresh, we should actually have a post that fits, an image that fits in the post. And as you can see, we do. So now I can actually see the posts and the image shows as well. So that means it's technically working. We have added images to the post. It could be better, but it's working. I'm actually going to get rid of this back to subreddits button because we already have the home button, so we don't need back to subreddits. So go to subreddit/show, get rid of back to subreddits because we already have the home button. We don't need that. And so yeah, we've got a nice, neat little application. It's very simple right now. But if we create a post, we can say like this, and obviously it works. And now we have it here. Obviously r/funny has no post because I'm not a funny guy. Let's also go to posts and then to show.html.erb, and let's get rid of back to posts. Okay. And then also this little bit. And then we also need to make it so that it only shows these buttons if we are actually the correct user. So let's go ahead and do that as well. So I'm going to copy this from show.html.erb from subreddits. And it's essentially the same process. And it's very easy to go to and change this to post. So we need to change this to post.user_id inside of post folder in the show. Because we need to change that. And then, I think I forgot to do it in the controller as well. So we have to change that here too. So post and post. And then now we should be okay. All right. So in the next video, we're going to add a upvote button and a downvote button, and then also the counter of how many upvotes versus downvotes they have. All right. So in this video, we're going to add a upvote and a downvote counter to the posts. So let's go to the Windows terminal and let's go here, let's say clear, and we're going to create a new model, and we're going to call that model votes. And then when we create this, when we click like upvote, it's going to create a vote and be added to that post. When we click downvote, it's going to delete the existing vote and also minus the count by 1. And so we're going to create a model, and our model is going to be called vote. So say Rails G model vote, and then we're going to say users references, and then subreddits references. And then we're also going to say value integer. And this integer value is going to be incremented or decremented depending on whether we upvote or downvote. So hit enter. And then we're going to check out the migration that actually created. That's the wrong application. Let me go to db schema or db migrate and then the recent migration. As you can see, it's going to create a table, and it's going to reference the users and subreddits, and it's going to have a value of t.integer. So let's go ahead and do Rails db migrate. If we go to schema.rb, it added the user ID and the subreddit's ID here. So now we're referencing those two things. And so let's go back to our application. And so now we have a vote model. What we need to do is we need to create a button, and that button is going to increment the vote counter and decrement based on which button it is. So we're going to have to create a form and routes. And so we want the form to be on the posts show page. So let's go to our application and let's go to, that's not the application. Let's go to views posts show. So just below the post, we want to say form underscore with model. And then we're going to say curly braces, well, not curly braces, but square brackets, at post, and then at vote URL. Where do we want this? We want this to be on the upvote underscore post underscore path. So we're going to create a new action in the post controller. Then we're going to say method is equal to post with a colon before post, and then ID. And we're going to say upvote form, and that's if we want to style it. And then we can just say do form. And so here we're just saying create a form with the post model and the vote model, and the URL, oh, I forgot that colon there. URL is the upvote post path, so it's going to go to the upvote action in the post controller, which we have yet to create. And so let's create an end statement. And then we're going to say form.number underscore field value is equal to 1, because this is going to be the up post or the upvote path. And then we're going to say form.submit, and we can just say upvote. If we save that file and refresh and go to the browser, we should be getting an error. And as you can see, we are, and that's because of two reasons. We haven't created the root in config routes.rb, and we haven't created the action in the controller. So let's go ahead and create the routes in config.routes.rb. So let's go back to our application and then go to the config. So go to config routes.rb. So at the top here, we're going to say resources posts, and then we're going to say do, and then we're going to say member do, and then end. And so we're going to create two post routes, and they're going to be called post upvote and then post downvote. And then that's going to give us access to those actions in the controller, which we're going to create now. So we're going to go to the controller, and we're going to go over here to the post controller. And we're going to create two new actions. So we're going to say def upvote end, and then def downvote end. And inside of the upvote method, what we're going to do is we're going to say at post is equal to post.find underscore by, and then we're going to say slug because we're going to be using the slug, and we're going to say params ID. So we're going to find the post. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say at vote is equal to current underscore user dot votes dot find or initialize by or initialize underscore by, and then we're going to say post is equal to at post. So here we're either finding the current user's votes, or we're going to create a vote, or we're initializing vote. And then we're saying at vote dot value is equal to 1. And then we actually need to create the vote, so we're going to say @vote.save. And then finally, once it's saved, what we're going to do is redirect back to the post. So redirect to @post. Then we can basically copy all this for the downvote, only change one or two things. And all we have to do is just make this -1 instead of 1. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the models, and we're going to go to vote, and we're going to say def total underscore score. We're going to say end, and then we're going to say votes dot sum, and then pass in the value. And so here we're just going to sum the value of all votes for that post, and make sure to put that not in the vote.rb but actually in the post.rb. And then once we've done that, all we need to do is we need to go to views, posts and show. And then we actually do need to create the downvote post, so we'll just do that now. We'll just copy the previous one, then say downvote form and go to the downvote. And we're going to say downvote here. And then most importantly, make the value -1. And now what we can do is we can just say @post.total underscore score, because we defined it in our model over here. So any method that you use here, you're actually going to be able to define or use in your whole application. So that's pretty cool. So we're just adding the votes which we passed beforehand. So now if we refresh the page, we're getting an undefined method model name. So to me, that sounds like it doesn't know what one of these models are. So it obviously knows what post is because we're on the post show page, but it might not know what @vote is. So let's see if it does. So let's go to post controller and then show. And as you can see in show, there's nothing. So all we have to do is just define this. And so to do that, what we're going to do is just say vote is equal to vote.new. Save that and refresh. Now we should be able to have the forms. And we're getting another error and it says undefined local variable or method votes. And to fix that, all we have to do is actually define the associations, because in the vote, we said belongs to users and belongs to subreddits, but we have to say has many and has many in the posts and users. So let's say here has underscore many votes. And most importantly here, we have to say has underscore many votes. That way we'll actually be able to use this action. And here we're getting another error and it says no such column votes.post.id. And that's true because I just checked the schema.rb, and as you can see, we have no column saying post underscore ID. So I'm gonna have to create another migration, and then to add a migration to this, to add a column to this table. So let's say Rails G migration, add post ID to votes, post underscore ID is going to be an integer, enter. And then let's just check the migration to make sure that that is true. As you can see, add column votes post ID integer sounds good to me. Rails db migrate. It would be a good idea to remove this subreddit's ID. It's not needed, but I'm not going to do it because we don't need to. Our application is still going to work even if we have it. All right, so then I'll refresh the page, and then now we're actually finally seeing the post and the forms. And if I press upvote, what happens? Looks like I spelled initialize wrong. So let's go back to post controller and then go here, initialize, and then also in the downvote, initialize. Cool. If I click upvote, no such column votes.userid. And that's true because I actually forgot. I made a typo. Look here. It says TL integer users underscore ID, and it needs to say user underscore ID. So let me create another migration, and we're going to say Rails G migration, add user ID to votes, and then we're going to say user underscore ID, and we're going to call it integer. And in this migration, we may as well get rid of the wrong things. So we're going to get rid of subreddit's ID and user's ID. And so we're going to say remove underscore column votes, and then we're going to say subreddits underscore ID, and make sure to have that. And then we're also going to call it integer, and then do the same thing, but we're going to say users underscore ID. So with that migration, our votes table should actually be all right. Rails db migrate. And then let me just check. So now we have the value, we have the post ID, and we have the user ID. So that's good. That looks good to go. Now I can refresh the page again. And then now I'm seeing the same thing. If I click upvote, it's still not working because we don't have the correct references. So go to the vote model, models vote.rb, and we need to actually say posts here, not subreddits. And so in order to fix this error, what we have to do is we have to go to the vote model, and then instead of subreddits, which it was before, we have to change it to post. And then we have to change users to user. And if we do all that, then when we actually click upvote, it should actually work. Now there's a problem here, and that's because I can actually change this, and then it doesn't actually go anymore, so that's good. But we need to get rid of this text field, so let's go ahead and do that. So go to the posts, and then go to show page, and then we're just going to make this type hidden. So type hidden, and then we're going to do that on both number fields, and then that should work. So now we have an upvote button and a downvote button, and I'm just going to post this total score above the forms because that looks better. And so if I click downvote, it goes to -1. If I click upvote, it goes to 1. And then let me go in a different browser and actually upvote it over there. So localhost 3000. So I'm logged in. I'll go to that post, and then I'll upvote it. And as you can see, now it has 2. If I refresh this page, it has 2 here. And so that's the upvote system in Ruby on Rails. Now we can actually upvote our posts, so that's pretty cool. I personally like to add the score like over here, so let's go ahead and do that. So let me get rid of this Edge browser and then go to the application and then go to underscore post.html.erb. I'll just copy this underscore post.html.erb, and then we're just going to put it right next to the title. In fact, we'll put it right next to the title like this, and then get rid of @post, and then now that should work. So we've got 2, and then I'll get rid of it on the show page like that. Perfect. And so now if I click downvote, it will go back to 0 because there's one person downvoting, one person upvoting, so it's 0. In the next video, we're going to add comments to the posts. Alright, so in the last video, we added the functionality of upvoting and downvoting posts, but in this video, we're going to add the functionality of commenting on posts. So we're going to be able to comment and delete our comment, and our comment is going to display our current user.email. So to do this, we're going to create a new model, and we're going to call it the comment model. So do Rails G model comment, and we're going to say content string, and then we're also going to say post underscore ID integer, and then we're also going to say user underscore ID integer. So let's hit enter, and then let's do Rails db migrate. And this is going to be very similar to how we added this upvote downvote system, because we're going to be having a form, and we're going to be having similar routes, and we're going to be having similar actions. And so we already have the server running, so we don't need to do that. Voice crack, we don't need to do that. And let's go back to our VS Code, and let's just check out our model. This is the wrong VS Code. Oh yeah, look, as you can see, here's the comment model. And so here we're just going to say belongs underscore to, and we are going to set it to post, and then it also belongs underscore to user. And it's very similar to the vote. As you can see, we had the same thing here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to, I think we have to run Rails db migrate actually. No, I have actually already ran Rails db migrate. Let me just check the schema to make sure it looks good. Comments, content, post ID, user ID looks good to me. The next thing that we need to do is we're going to say def create underscore comment. And the idea is that in the show page of this, we're going to create a form just like this one. and it's going to have a text field to enter the content of the comment. And it's also going to submit the current user.id, and it's going to go to that action. So let's go ahead and do that. And so I'm going to copy this one up here. Where do I want it to be? Yeah, I want it to be down here. So form with model at post, and instead of vote, we're going to say at comment. And then we have to say create comment, create underscore comment underscore path. And so that looks good. And then we'll just honestly get rid of the ID for now. We don't need that. I don't think so. And so now we're saying, all right, so that looks good. And then we want a text field. So we're going to say form.text field, and we need it to be the content. And we can get rid of this value. And we also need it to be not of type hidden. And then not only do we need the content of the comment, we also need the current user.id. So we'll say user underscore ID value is equal to current underscore user dot ID. And just to make sure that our application is safe and secure and we're not going to get any errors, I'm going to say if current underscore user at the top there and surround it through everything. So then I'm going to refresh the page and see if we're rendering that form. And we're getting an error, and that's because we don't have the correct roots. So let's go and create the roots. So we have to go to config roots.rb. So I'm just going to go to roots.rb and then add another one, and we're going to say post create underscore comment. Save and refresh. And I forgot to add the link. It's a little bit wrong. So let's go back underscore post underscore path. Okay, so we're getting this error. We're saying undefined method model name, and that's because they don't know what @comment is. So we're going to go to the show action, and we're going to say @comment is equal to comment dot.new. Once we do that, that error will be gone because they actually know what the comment is. All right, so now when we try and create a comment, hello, nothing happens. It just says hey. And the reason for that is because while we have the action here, we actually have to say to create the comment inside of it. So let's go ahead and do that. First, we need to find the post using the ID. So we're going to say @post is equal to post.friendly.find, or in fact, we can just go down here and we can grab this from the set post, and we can put this in here. So this is going to find it by the ID. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say @comment is equal to post.comments.build, and then we're going to say comment params, because we're going to have another method and that's going to intake the comment params. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say @comment dot user underscore ID is equal to current underscore user .id. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say if @comment.save redirect to @post. Notice comment was successfully created, and then else an end. And then if it doesn't successfully create, we're going to say what happened there. If it doesn't successfully create, okay, we're going to say failed to create comment. Failed to create comment. Then what we're going to do is we're going to start on a new method. We're going to say def comment underscore params and then say end. And we're just going to say params.require comment dot permit content. So we're requiring the comment as a model, and then we're just permitting the content. So if we save that file and then refresh, we're going to get another error once we submit the form. So let's try that. And as you can see, it's saying undefined method comments. And that's because here we're saying post.comments.build. And in order to access post.comments, we have to have associations built up in the models. So let's check if we have. We go to post.rb, and as you can see, there's nothing about comments here. So what we have to do is we have to say has many comments. And now we can access post.comments.build and we can actually build a comment. So now if we create a comment, yay, comment was successfully created. So the comment was created. And so now what we're going to do is we're just going to make this form look a little bit better. So let's go and do that. So go to the show, and then what we're going to do is just hide these. So type hidden, copy that in there, and that's better. And then we're also going to just do, we'll just do like a h2, and it's going to say create or new comment or something like that. New. All right, so that's better. So create comment, and as you can see, comment was successfully created. And we can't actually see the comment yet, so let's make sure we can see the comments. So all we have to do to see the comments is we should just be able to access at comments.each do, and we're going to say comment and end, and then we're just going to say comment or comment.content. Now just to make sure that we're able to access the comments, we're going to go to the post controller, and then we're going to go to show, and then we're going to go at comments is equal to comment dot where post underscore ID is equal to, or maybe like this, post ID is equal to at post.id. So now we should have access to the comments variable. And as you can see, we're actually getting access to it, but we have to make sure that this is not equal sign there because we don't want to render it. And then now we're actually able to see all the comments. So that's very good. All right, perfect. And then we're just going to make this a h2 or maybe h6. So now we see all the comments. And then we're also going to add, so it shows the user that created it. So we're going to say comment.user.email if we have access to that. We do, but it looks pretty bad. I think I'll add it inside of the h2. And I don't really want them to be h2. We're going to say h5 or h6. We'll say h6. So now we've got our comments and they're there. It's not really looking very stylish, but at least we have our comments. Comments, h3. All right, so in this video, we're going to add a join button to each subreddit. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say Rails G Scaffold membership. So membership. Then we're going to say user ID integer and subreddit ID string. Then hit that command, and then we're going to do Rails DB migrate. And I already have a conflict, but that's okay. I'm just going to do /force, but you don't need to do that. Okay, and then we're going to do Rails DB migrate. And I'm getting an error, but you probably won't. Okay, and now if we go to schema, we should see a memberships table somewhere. And as you can see here, and it has to have a subreddit ID and a user ID. And then also we're going to see, if we go to views, a new memberships folder, and then also a new model. And so in this model, we're going to say belongs_to, and we are going to call user. And then we're also going to say belongs_to, and we're going to say subreddit. Then we're going to go to subreddit, and we're going to say has_many, and we're going to say memberships. And then we're going to do the same thing, but in user. Then what we're going to do is go to views, subreddits, and show. And here we need to have some sort of form that makes it able to actually create a membership and also to destroy membership. And also we need to check if we already have memberships. So to do that, I'm just going to copy in this code and I'll read it out to you. So as you can see, we're saying if the current user, so if the user is logged in, and if the user has a membership and that membership has the same subreddit ID as this subreddit ID, then that means that you're a member And so that means it renders the form to leave. And this form says, find the current user, using the current user, find the membership that has the same subreddit ID as this subreddit. And then method delete, and then it says form.submit leave. And then down here, if you're not a member, it says render the partial membership chef form, locales membership is equal to membership. And so the next thing that we're going to do is go to membership form. And here, all we're going to do is just paste in this, and it's pretty simple. We're just saying if current user, then render the user ID number field with the value of current user.id. That's the most important part. And then end, because if we didn't have the if current user, then we'd get an error if we tried to create a membership and we're not logged in. And then here, we're just adding the subreddit ID as the value of this subreddit ID attribute. So save that file and then refresh, and we should be seeing a form. An error, and that's because of our roots. So let's go to our roots.rb to solve this error, and config roots.rb, and we basically need to change this resources to subreddits. And so we're saying collection or member post join. We can comment this out for now, it's not necessary, but I'll just leave it there because it doesn't do any harm. And we're gonna need it later when we add the search. So member do post join. And if we do that, we're forgetting one thing, and that's that we have to go to controllers, subreddits, and then go here. I have to say membership is equal to membership.new. And we basically just need this variable so that we can actually use it in our show file, because as you can see here, we're passing it in as @membership, but we haven't defined it, and so we're defining it right here. Save the file, refresh, and as you can see, now we're getting a join button, and it takes us to here. Membership was successfully created, but we don't want it to take us there. So let's go back, go to memberships, and when it creates, all we have to do is actually just say @membership.subreddit, because a membership can only have one subreddit, so we can just mention .subreddit. And then if we go to the browser and then try and do the same thing, let me go home and then leave, it will actually destroy it. So let's go and fix that. It's just the same thing. And so go down here and then go down here and I'd say @membership.subreddit, and that's good for now. And so now this should be actually done. So if I join, I am now a member. Membership was successfully created. If I leave, membership was successfully destroyed, and it says join. So now that's successfully done. We've added the memberships. What we need to do is add a link up here that also renders all of the memberships and the subreddits that I'm in. So what we're going to do is go to layouts, navbar to html.erb, and here what we're going to do is say if user signed in. Yep. So if the user is signed in, we're going to create a new link, and I'm going to say link to, and we're going to say my subreddits. Then we're going to say, well, we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call it my subreddits underscore path, my subreddits underscore post underscore path. And that's good for now, but we're also going to add the class nav class is equal to nav link. And then we're going to create a new file in the memberships folder. So, we need to say subreddits, I think. Let me just check my notes. And so yeah, we just need to say my subreddits underscore path, my subreddits, and then we're going to create that file. So we're going to say my underscore subreddits underscore .html.erb. And then in this file, what we're going to do is just render this code. So as you can see, we're saying if membership.count is over 0, which we're going to define this variable in a second. It's just going to be the current user.memberships. Then we're going to show the memberships and their subreddit title. So let's go ahead and copy this in here. And then what we're going to do is actually define this. So do that. And we're going to go to application controller, or actually it would be better to do it in the subreddits controller. And we're going to say def my subreddits, and then we're going to say end. And we just have to say if current user @user memberships is equal to current user.memberships. And so then if we refresh, all we have to do is just map this link. All we have to do is actually just map this link to the correct one. So let's go to config routes.rb again. And we just have to add this line of code, and it's saying get my subreddits to subreddits, hashtag my subreddits as my subreddits. So basically get this view to this controller and this action. And then that's going to work if I save the file. And as you can see, if I click my subreddits, it shows the subreddits that I'm in. And because I'm not in any, it doesn't show any. But if I click join and then I go to my subreddits, it actually shows. So that's it. Memberships have been successfully created. In the next video, we're going to add a search form so they're able to search for all the subreddits. Hello everyone and welcome. In this video, I want to add a search bar to our subreddits so that we're able to search all the subreddits. For this, I'm just going to create a new subreddit. That way we can have more than one to search from. Create a subreddit. And then I'm also going to create one more. And then create. Alright. So we need to create a search bar. How are we going to do this? Well, we're going to create a form on the index page. And that form is going to go to an action. And then our action is going to filter out the subreddits based on the text field inside of the form. So if I type A in the form, then it will show the subreddits with A. So I'm going to go to my subreddits index page. And then what I'm going to do is just copy in this because I already have it done. And I'm going to copy it in there. And what we're saying here is form with URL, search subreddits path, method post, and that's really important. Do form. Form.search field, title search. So have an attribute. We're going to search the title search on input. This.form.request submit. So it's going to submit on input. And that's it. Now to make this form work, you have to go to config routes.rb. And you need to make sure to have a member post join inside of resources subreddits. So make sure to have that to make the form work. Then we're going to refresh the page and we should see the form. As you can see, we do. So I'm also just going to copy in the styles that I already have. So this is also very important. And what you need to do is basically just say div ID search results, because we're going to populate this div with TurboFrame search results later using TurboStream. So now it should look like this. And the results are gonna go in there. And so as I was saying, what we have to do is go to the subreddits controller, and then we're gonna copy in this method. And so we're saying def search. If params title search dot present, then we're gonna say subreddits is equal to subreddit dot where title I like params title search. Else subreddits is equal to this. So we're basically saying filter the subreddits due to or according to the title search. And here is very important. We're saying I like and then question mark. This is safe against CSRF attacks, and this is also using the Postgres database. Which means that when I refresh, I think I'm going to get an error. And I already am getting an error. But let's see. Okay, so first of all, we're getting this error. Missing partial. So let's go and create that partial. But because this is Postgres, we have to change our application to Postgres. Let me just check if my application is Postgres. It shouldn't be Postgres. Yeah, it's still SQLite 3, so we're going to have to change it to Postgres. All right, so let's create a new file, a new folder. So subreddits and then search results. Subreddits underscore search underscore search and then underscore results .html.erb. And in this file, what are we going to put? Well, we're basically just going to render the search results. So here we have some styling, and then here at subreddits.each.do subreddit. So we're rendering the subreddits and we're giving it a link to. And if we go back to the controller, subreddits controller, as you can see, here's the most important part that I didn't even tell you about. We're saying format.turbostream do, and then render the TurboStream to update search results, partial, subreddits / search results, locals, subreddits, and subreddits. So basically we're saying update that div that we have on the index page. It's the one here. And update it with this partial, and then give locals of subreddits subreddits, and subreddits is defined over here. So if I refresh the page, what are we going to get? Another error. And that's because we're using this. We're using SQLite 3 and the code is using Postgres. The code is only available on Postgres because iLike is a Postgres function or method. So to fix this, we have two options. We can either change the code so that it works on SQLite 3, which works, but only to an extent because SQLite 3 is less powerful than Postgres. So it's not going to work as well. It'll still work, but it's not as good. Or we can switch to Postgres. I am going to show you both of them. Actually, no, I'm just going to show you the only good option, and that's going to be switching to PostgreSQL. So what we're going to do is go back to the server, and we're going to say Rails DB system change, and we're going to say 2 or double dash 2 is equal to PostgreSQL. And yes, and as you can see, it's done. Rails DB create. Rails, let me try that again. Rails DB create. I had a syntax error the last time. And it's created my databases. And now this code is going to work. I'll just show you that it does. Rails S. And as you can see, hold on. The server is already running. Okay, I just have to stop the server, I think, and then restart it. All right, so now this code, okay, 14 pending migrations. Run the pending migrations. And then, okay, I'm getting an undefined error, page undefined table, error, table of memberships does not exist. All right, I'm gonna fix that real quick. Yeah, I understand what the problem is. So I'm basically trying to drop a table that's not there yet. So I can delete that, and I can actually delete these two migrations because they're just doing the same thing as this one. So yeah, delete that one permanently. And then now I can Rails DB migrate and it should work. Okay, and then now I'm gonna refresh the server, start the server again, and then continue, and then search. So there's nothing on the database, so that's probably not why it's not working. So I'm just going to create a new account and then add some subreddits, and then we'll see. So now, as you can see, it's actually working and we're getting search. So that's pretty cool. Now, the most important thing is that you switch to PostgreSQL. If you do that, then this iLike code is actually going to work. So make sure to switch to PostgreSQL. So we've successfully added search to application. It now works. Alright guys, so that was how to create a Reddit clone using Ruby on Rails. I know it isn't 100% complete, but we got at least 80-90% of Reddit. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you want to learn Rails faster, check out my Patreon. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.